What's up, guys? It's your man, Lil TT, here with Big CC on our brand new, your favorite podcast, Two Bears, One Cave. Are we going in with that? Is that our new thing?
Yeah, it won't stay, but it's good for this time.
I think because we're joking about it as much as your nickname stayed, like it's staying. That's your new belt. We need to.
No, I already got another belt. Like
Two Bears, One Cave on the belt. And all the things that have torn me apart, nothing has made me more whole. Covering the good, the bad, and the shit that just keeps us going. Straight from the head refs table, I'm your host, Travis Papa Bear Rogers, and you are listening to A Forest Through the Trees, a cave podcast, not Two Bears, One Cave. Here with my co-host, the man of the hour, and now our newest, I wouldn't say newest, probably our only other 800-pound plus squatter.
Well, I wouldn't. Okay, it's cool. It's cool. I wouldn't consider myself an 800-pound squatter yet. I did it one time. Had a very good 21 days out. Heaviest squat of prep last weekend. But I wouldn't consider myself an 800-pound squatter just yet.
I hear if you do it once, it's just an accident.
It probably was.
Yeah.
And months and months and months of training for an accident.
So before we get into the coverage of the podcast and some of the stuff I've told you, was I correct when you picked that 800 for the first time?
Yeah.
Does it feel like shit?
Yeah, it was terrible. It shook me to my core.
So we had talked about jumps, probably a week before, and then reconsidered again probably 3 or 4 days away.
Yep.
And I was like, no, you should definitely take that in between from 750 to 804, because that, when you first picked that 8, man, it felt good too, because like I took the one in between, and the pick was fine. That was probably one of my better picks. And the squat went great, and I was like, okay, I blistered that one. Let me just take that next jump. And even though it was like 17 pounds on top, that 17 pounds made a monstrous difference. You picked that, and you're like, oh, this is a different ballgame now. Okay, this is a little tough.
Yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of AR that would probably somewhere put it in the 8 range. Totally different.
Oh, yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah. It's almost like when we talk about being a board hero.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I'd take 600-700 pounds to a 2-board, a 1-board, but like,
exactly.
Dude, that next little bit, man, it's a game changer. It's not. But as we said before, man, just remember, it's a suit. It does all the work for you.
That's right. You've
been you're not cheating the game. You're cheating yourself, man.
Yeah, I'm saving all the gains. They're not even going to me. They're going into the briefs.
I know they're not going to me. I have not squat in 4 weeks, deadlift in 4 weeks, and now I haven't benched in 6. Yep. So I am living that hypertrophy bro lift life right now.
Powerlifter poser.
Yeah, I am a poser, man. I'm a poser. But we once again want to thank everybody for giving us such positive feedback about the podcast. All those tuning in, reposting, resharing, subscribing. Really, really appreciate it. Me and Carl have had a great time doing this, and obviously we want to continue doing it. Yep. But I think we talked about we're going to go 3 on, 1 off. Right. So we'll be taking a break next week. Just to kind of put some more advertising and stuff together and really push those first 3 episodes and then kind of regroup and think about what we want to do. We've also gotten a fair amount of, I wouldn't say questions and concerns, but more things that people want to hear us talk about that we want to try to put together, and that way we can kind of cater to our audience. I know I've had multiple DMs. You've had some, just stuff they want to either A, hear stories about, or B, kind of say, hey, we know you two do this. Why don't you talk about that a little more in depth? So
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely can agree to that. I think it'd be good to have that on the podcast. So I think our first episode, it was kind of like a little heavy-hearted. Had some sad moments in there, some realizations, the thing that brought us together.
Some real stuff.
I think our second one was a little more lighthearted.
Yeah.
A little more advice for that first meet, and some things to consider. And then now I think we're kind of rounding out the full thing with, I think we might do a little bit of shit talking today.
How do you want to go about that?
a little bit of taking some stabs. But I've been wanting to do this podcast. This is actually what my newest Elite FTS article is on, which should probably be out hopefully before the summer, about why you shouldn't be a meet director. Yeah. So we decided we wanted to do this from both sides of the platform. Right, myself being athlete in many different divisions, and also meet director and referee, and then of course we have Carl, who's been with me since we opened the cave, man. Right, so you've been here helping every single meet.
Yep.
You've been on a competing side of the platform, and of course, spotter loader team. Like, you've done it all.
Pretty well versed in the spotter loader side.
Yeah. Some would say spotter loader extraordinaire.
I think I've spotted and loaded more than I've competed.
I think between you and Rob, it is the platform managers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would put you up there with the
Rob
highest
hold it down.
regards. Yeah, I would. I really would. Shout out to the Jadiq, who now is in the, he works out at, what's it
The
called?
training center.
The training center up in Newark, Delaware.
Buff Jesus that cut his hair.
Yeah, Buff Jesus. He's looking good right now. I think he's down, he texted me this morning, he's down to 250.
Wow.
250.
Wow.
So, shout out to him. We miss him here, holding down. So it's always nice to see the crew get back together.
I miss those amazing bench handies.
Bench handies. That is the man, the myth, the legend with the hands.
Yep.
You know, he has handed off many benches over our faces and saved us from just as many.
That's right.
So, so today we really want to get into, I think an appropriate title for this podcast was "Sometimes It's Good, Sometimes It's Shit," and it's all about looking for meets, going to meets, and what you want to look forward to or want to make sure it has versus things you should look out for or things to avoid.
Yeah.
Right? And then all the kind of cavalcades that round about that and kind of the ins and outs of even maybe some internal meet workings, logistically what money breaks down to, just some behind the scenes stuff that I think a lot of people don't know but should be talked about.
Yeah, definitely stuff you normally would overlook if you're still new to it. You don't know what you're going into. You're like, oh, it's powerlift meet, and you go there, lift weights. No, there's a whole lot of other things that go on that you'll find out.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even think it's that necessarily like overlooking would be the word for it, but it's like, dude, those first couple meets, like, you're concerned about you.
That's
and
right.
like we even talked about, like, for our first meets, like, it's your first meet. You're hype.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It could be unsafe, dog shit equipment, but you're like, dude, I'm here. So it kind of goes out the window, right? So when you're looking for a meet, Carl,
Right.
besides for the ones I say, hey, do this meet.
Yeah.
Like,
Which are most?
go to this one. What would you say, out of the ones you've experienced, what is something that you as a lifter value at a meet, right? Like, what do you want to see it? Like, if you had to make a bucket list or a checklist of, if it's got A, B, and C, this is a damn good meet.
Okay. I'm looking for equipment. I'm looking for what they're using on the platform. And in the warm-up room, but mostly on the platform.
And I think that goes overlooked, right?
Yeah.
Especially warm-up room. Like,
Yeah.
It sucks if, like, hey, you have a mono on the platform
Right.
and you've been training mono, and then you get back to the warm-up room and there's one mono and 20 dudes, and you're like, oh, shit, how are my warm-ups going
Guess
to
we're
go?
taking turns. It's going to be a long time.
Right, and so to find out
Guess
about
you're-
that equipment, we actually had to recently do this for your meet, right?
I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
Right, so yeah, so I don't want to spill it for you. So what would you say is the best way to go about finding that out? What did you have to do?
Well, I mean, it's most likely. I know when you sent it to me originally, it was listed for whatever you saw it on. It had monolift listed as a piece of equipment they're using on the platform,
Right.
Which is what we look for being in equipment. I'm not going to walk anything out. That's not what I do. I'm never doing that. But it came down. It was probably like 2 weeks ago. I had emailed the meet director, Amy, with RPS, and I said, hey, I just want to clarify, like, what's the situation in the warm-up room, how many monoliths are going to be there, and if they have one on the platform. And she just clarified it for me really easy. Super fast, super professional, just like, hey, here's a question, and it got answered.
Right, and I think that says a lot about her, right?
Yep.
And I mean, not, hailing her or anything in particular, but it's saying as far as a meet director goes, that should be one of the things you look for. If you have a question and you send it, you should expect an answer.
Yeah.
Right? And while I'm on that, emails. Right?
Yeah.
Like, are you getting emails? I know for me, you see me even on Sundays when we're all together. I send the 8-week out,
Yeah.
the 6-week out, the 4-week out. I send the 1 week out, the night before, like all that stuff. I send the extra one if we're choosing songs for lifters.
Right.
That, is your meet director following up with their lifters, even if it's regurgitation of the same information, just to make sure you've seen it, right? And you as a lifter, you should be checking your spam folder. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I'll never
Keep an
forget
eye on that.
dude, do you remember that DSI meet? That guy showed up the
Yes.
day. Like, we were literally about to do the national anthem, and he's like, I'm here to compete. And I'm like, bro, like,
You're
I've
a little
sent
late.
tons of emails about this. And he's like, well, the gym didn't tell me. And I'm like, I sent you 8 emails, dude.
Personally to you, not the gym.
Yeah. And he and I felt bad for the guy, but like, we were literally about to start the lineup, and he had missed weigh-ins the day before, and we don't do day of.
It just
and
doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, he wasn't obviously responding to any of the emails I sent, so I just figured he'd drop and didn't want to tell us. And that's why you should always check your spam, right? Always check your spam.
And if you're going to drop out of meet, be vocal about it.
Yeah.
Don't rely on the people to find out day of.
Great.
That just screws over the process of the whole thing.
Great point, Carl. Yeah, and that's not fair to the meet directors. And not fair to all your fellow competitors.
If something happens in your prep and you're like, oh well, I'm not competing right now, I got to save it. Then just be honest and open about it. Say, hey, this isn't going to work out.
We're not asking you to make a 3-reel slide on Instagram saying, telling the world all your woes, but at least email your meet director and say, hey, I had an accident, I had a family emergency, etc. I won't be competing, so that way they can say, hey, I can open your spot up to somebody else.
Somebody else can take that spot. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. There's plenty of other people that would be like, oh, sure, I'll jump in this meet. I'm ready enough. Let's go.
All right, so we kind of knocked out A and a B. So we had good equipment at the meet that matches your warm-up room, and then B, we said, if you have questions about any kind of stuff like that, right, your meet director should be quality control, communication, caring about that.
Big
so if you had to throw one more C, what would Big C's C be?
Something that I have learned recently, and it is that you have to pick the time frame you're doing the meet and what you're competing in. I've talked about it before with wearing multiply gear, and I'm doing this meet in the middle of July. It's pretty hot. So if I was going to move forward, I'd probably stick to something like with less equipment during the hotter months, and then probably get my multiply stuff when it's like fall, winter time.
It's one thing if you're just doing multiply and you're multiply year round, but considering that me and Carl switch a lot between single and multi, we should have planned the seasons. I will take fault for that. That was directly my fault.
Total fault.
I'm like, hey buddy, do you know it's like 100 degrees outside? Well, have I got a present for you?
Yeah, right.
Put on 3 more layers, and it's got Velcro. You're
Put your winter coat on, dude.
Yeah, you're gonna absolutely love this. So yeah, I would say
that's my A, B, and C.
Yeah, A, B, and C. I'd say my A, B, and C is number one when you're seeing at a meet, especially from my point of view and being scared of coming back from so many injuries, is safety, right? Are you going with a fed and a meet director that you've visually seen or asked around about safety-wise, right? Do they always have a good spotter and loader crew? Have you heard about bad accidents from some of their meets? That was, something, it was a variable they could control, right? Like they had not the correct amount of spotters out there.
Like something that's like complete negligence almost.
Yeah, almost complete. Yeah, that would be a really good word for it. I agree with that, Carl. Are they apt to allowing you to have your own personal handoff person, right? And obviously that's bigger for us in gear.
Yeah.
Because you don't want some random dude be like, hey, can you hold the 600 pounds over my face?
Right, and they're just going to...
Not a good thing, right? So safety for me especially is number one, especially if they allow, a spotter or two to stay on the platform to make up that 5-man team. I think that's a huge thing, because not only is it confidence for the lifters, but like you're helping that meet director to say, hey, like we got extra dudes, we got a team with us, we'll make sure that person that signed up from our team stays safe at the meet, and we'll throw down and help the other lifters.
Yeah,
and
if you're there,
I don't know how many meets I've done where you guys have personally come with me, and I've been told after the meet, being like, hey, thank you for coming competing in our meet, but also I really want to thank your crew because they didn't just show up for you. They showed out and were generous to everybody, and I think that's super important safety-wise.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of like what you should be doing. Like, if you're running a meet and you can only bring on 3 people for spotter loader, like, that's a problem by itself. You should have the 5-man team.
I mean, if you really want to skip half this podcast and just get me going on why you shouldn't be a meet director.
No, we can come back to that later.
Yeah, you're starting in on it early. I'm like, yeah, fuck that. You shouldn't even be doing it. If you can't come up with 3 spotters and they all suck, you should not be throwing a fucking meet.
But if you're experienced in spotting and loading and you're there and they're like, oh, we need an extra person on this platform, and like if you have to sign something or a waiver or something like that,
right,
just go ahead and do it. Hop on the platform, help out, keep these people safe. They've trained pretty hard getting to this.
And I think being said like that too, like, dude, let's say you and me show up to a meet. Actually, we are. this weekend.
Yes.
I just haven't told you.
Oh, great. Okay.
No, I'm not even.
Is this
joking.
you dropping the ball on me?
Yeah, sorry, dude. In the middle of the podcast, it just reminded me. Travis Burton just texted me, and I told him I'd ask you. So I'll ask you after the podcast. Okay. So we're doing a meet this weekend. It's like a non-sanctioned for fun, like to help people out.
Meet?
It is.
Okay.
It is. But I figured I'd ask you to come help me.
No, that's fine.
Because they want me to throw some referees, and I was like, man, me and Carl should go help out.
I think I could do that.
All right. Yeah. You're kind of
Here we're talking about
guy.
it now. We're not going to talk about it after.
Yeah.
We'll just make the plans now.
Carl's going to tell you should volunteer if you're there to meet, but then I'm going to ask him on the podcast. He's like, no, I'm not doing it.
I think I got something going on between 12 and 12 that day.
Yeah. So definitely, I mean, because you could be the person to make that person's day.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've definitely had a bigger guy or two, especially when I was 181 and I was still squatting crazy weight. Like, dude, I was scared. And I'll never forget Pat Hall. You never met Pat Hall.
I don't think I have.
Pat Hall was on Ritual with me. Big boy. I'm talking like way over 3 bills. I mean, and tall, but everyone's tall compared to me because I'm 5'5". But he was tall. He was like probably 350, 375. Probably 6'5". Like, he was a bridge troll. This man was a monster. When I would fail a squat, bro, he could scoop you and the bar, lift them both up, and just place you back in the rack. Like, arms of an angel style, Titanic going down. Like, that man had you right. And I always remember, like, and me and Pat were friends, but I'd see him do it for other people. And other people, including me, would tell him, I'm like, dude, I've never felt more safe to risk it for the biscuit on a squat than with Pat Hall standing behind me. And that always set the precedent for me, that I was like, you know, whether it's you or Rob or me, like somebody from the audience that might need that extra boost, like, bro, you could make that lifter's day.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
I know I always feel better in the gym if I'm taking something big and I got either like Rob, Diop, or Alex.
Right, exactly.
Like
you have your confidence boosters, but like you could be that for somebody. And I think a lot of our sport misses that these days.
Yeah.
Like that little extra bit you could give to that lifter just in that moment.
Just care.
Yeah,
enough.
just give a shit, dude. Just give a shit. Like, don't be a shithead. So my A was safety. My B, what is my B? Responsibility, because this kind of goes with the communication, but this goes with the rest of the staff. Responsibility of a team that cares is B. Mm-hmm. And the reason I wanted to say this one, because I told you about this one. I'll never forget, we were in Newark, New Jersey, the armpit of America, at a hotel ballroom meet. And this was back before I was still raw. I was in sleeves that day. I was in sleeves because I remember Coach was there with me. And he was like, you want me to wrap your knees? And I'm like, nah, dog, I'm all good. And he was like, oh, I've never seen you just walk on out there. Usually you're wrapping knees. So I was in sleeves that day. But I'll never forget when we were on bench. And this was before I benched with heels up. Because I was a flat-footed bencher for a very... Flat bencher, close grip. Like, I looked like I was close gripping people's maxes. I had a weird...
What is this?
I had a weird bench. Strong bench, but a weird bench. But I had my heels down. And so, like, I'm short. My legs don't touch the ground that easy. And they happen to have, like, a higher bench. So we got in the habit of bringing foot blocks with me to meets. Because, you know, sometimes, like, I understand, especially as a meet trigger, of course, I'm always supplying for our athletes here that come compete at the cave. But, like, that's kind of one of those things that's not usually asked for all the time. So it's easy to overlook and miss as a meet director. So we used to bring a little rubber blocks with me. They were probably about, like, inch and a quarter maybe, standard rubber mat, not as thin as a horse mat, but thicker than that.
Something you throw in a box squat.
Right, and they had some weight to them so they wouldn't slide across the carpet and stuff like you would. I'll never forget, I did a meet and we had to hodgepodge ones with like the polyurethane Rogue bumper plates. Dude, talk about terrifying. Push off the bench, your feet were like, and you could like hear them slide and everyone's like, oh shit, he's going to drop that. But the reason I'm saying this is the communication and caring of that team for me. My B choice here is Kyle Trolin was with me. I think Corwin and I think James was at this meet. And they were like, hey, man, my lifter's coming up. Can we please get foot blocks? The guy literally in the side chair kind of rolled his eyes. They grabbed the 2 mats that we had brought with us and put up there so it was easy for them to get to. Dude literally just chucks them onto the platform and just let them like land where they land. And then said platform ready. And so Kyle's looking at me and I'm like, dude, whatever. So not only did they not give a shit and it was super rude and off-putting to the lifter and the other people watching that happen, my clock was running.
Yeah.
My 60 seconds was running as I had to walk out there with Kyle and move the bench blocks, set up my own bench blocks and stuff before I was allowed to sit on the bench.
Imagine having to go out to a bench and then, oh, I have to lower my rack height real quick because you guys didn't set it for me. Hold on.
It was like almost the equivalent. So I think it's really important to like kind of do your research and talk to some people that compete in that area if you're traveling to a meet or something, and see if you do have a community and team of, you know, that meet director and the people they surround themselves with that actually care enough to like, you're there for the lifter. Like, they're not there to just like, oh, I helped out at a meet. Like, here's my gold star. I put it on my mom's refrigerator. Like,
help out at 5 more, you get a prize.
Yeah, did I get my Instagram post for the day and took a picture with the referees and be like, spot and loaded my first meet, bro.
Do I get tagged in 20 reels after today?
Give back to the sport, right? Like, make sure you're not surrounded by a group like that, and it's actually people who give a shit. So a little bit of research goes a long way, I think, in that attribute. And, of course, same thing you were talking about with that meet communication. Yeah. Have other friends, people you know, Instagram buddies, have they had bad experiences?
Right. I think we even had, talking about the foot blocks, we had somebody here 2 weeks or
last meet, yeah, and I had him out here for him, yeah.
Yeah. And it was only one lifter, but, like, we have them. We had it on the checklist for when we had them do the weigh-in process and getting rack heights. One of the checklists was, hey, do you need blocks? Oh, this one person, the only person needed blocks? Sure, there it is.
Yeah,
we got it.
We had it right on the rack card.
It's that easy. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said it like that. Like, it's that easy, but for a lot of those people, it's that easy to not give a shit too.
Yeah.
And you could ruin a lifter's day. Like, imagine a girl or shit. Well, I mean, I said I used them. Imagine me not being able to touch the floor and then trying to bench something like I normally bench. Right. Like, dude, like you're not going to get it, and it's crazy unsafe.
No.
And I think finally for C, my other big thing I would look for or not look for, I don't want to say distance, because I don't always think not traveling or traveling to a meet is a make it or break it.
It has some play into the meet, but it's not gonna make or break it.
I would say rather than the distance, I would say, and because this is kind of moving into the next thing we're talking about, is like the variables being controlled at a meet. And especially what I mean by that is for C would be like, depending on your season, depending on your gear division, depending on things like, one of the ones that comes to mind for me is McMillan. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I fucking adore McMillan. I love McMillan. It's like a warehouse style. It's very old school. I've competed there, 6 times, probably. 7 times. Love McMillan. But I'll never forget the one summer we did it.
Yeah.
It was so hot, dude. And it's not HVAC regulated. So, like, dude, it was Splash Mountain, son. It was a slip and slide catastrophe. Like, when you picked up deadlift bars to warm up for deadlifts and you put chalk on your hands, one set was all it would make because you had paste, bro. Like, it was disgusting.
It's all chalky.
Yeah, and I mean, not that I don't mind getting dirty, but I'm saying, like, when you went to pull for max effort, it was like holding a bar of soap. Right? So, and I remember that meet, every single one of us, even the elite level lifters, like all of us, dropped our third deadlift. No one could hold a deadlift at the end of the day.
Which almost evens the playing field.
It does.
Does it really matter?
It does, but it was still a really big disappointment because we all had really good pulls, but no one could hold on to it in the heat and humidity. So I think, like,
dare I say?
Yeah. So I think researching that I think the best way to say this is, are you conditioned for the conditions of that meet?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which is super hard to control.
It is a super hard to control, thing to control, but it is something I think a lot of athletes don't think about. Because I was always a firm believer in, like, here I am sitting at this really sweet ref table in an HVAC regulated gym with you, but I didn't come from that. You came from the barn, right? You were at the barn with me.
The chicken house.
Yeah, with no bathroom, no nothing, like wrapping knees in 100-degree barn.
Walk outside, go around the building to throw up, then come back.
Yeah, like it was awful. But I remember when we competed that year at Nationals, like in a beautiful HD ballroom with all the fancy TVs and like, dude, you felt like you could lift all day at 100% nonstop because you had conditioned yourself to the worst atmosphere possible.
So what you're saying is we got to shut the AC off here?
I'm just saying, like,
you're detraining.
I love you, but it's gonna get way harder, dude. It's gonna get way harder. That's why I train the shred shit.
The shred shit.
I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm just saying
you're
I'm better than you. No, it's the only way I can keep weight off because my broke ass can't squat or bench right now, so I gotta go sweat more. So yeah, I think looking at the conditions of where you're going, and of course, like you've heard bigger meets that have had bad outcomes with that, where like they rented out a space for like a broadcast in an area to hold more equipment and hold more people because of the level largeness of the event, but didn't consider like what that many bodies in one place does to an atmosphere, and like is there going to be enough airflow and HVAC to keep people relatively comfortable while warming up and stuff like that. You know, we hear about terrible meets, people passing out from heat exhaustion and all kinds of stuff like that because, you know, again, it's a harder variable to control, but research goes a long way.
I have also heard, and this is from, I think I heard this one on one of the table talks. I think it was with Dave Hoff, but he was saying at one of the larger meets he went to that the check-in and the weigh-in process was a mile and a half away, and so he's a big guy. Yeah. Imagine other big guys carrying lots of gear, going through this big long maze to find out where they're weighing in, and then having to walk back and do that again the next day before they go compete.
That's rough.
That's rough. It definitely is something different you got to think about if you're doing something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that definitely covers on some of the things we look at. But before we move to this next one for here, I really want to cover this. And me and Carl really thought of this last minute yesterday when we looked at this, but we thought this was such a good thing to add for today is control the variables you can because there's always going to be ones you can't, right? Meaning your food, your sleep, who you surround yourself with, the equipment you showed up with, backup stuff in case a shirt or singlet or a wrap rips. Mm-hmm. Like all these are little things you can think of to say, hey, even in the worst possible outcome situation of this meet, I was still as much prepared as I could have been.
Right. Break out your Boy Scout preparedness kit.
Yeah. Bro, Boy Scout, get that shit. You should make a checklist. We should make a checklist. We should make a checklist for you. We might do that. Carl's going to do that.
I'll do that. I'll get started on that right away.
It's just going to be 2 lines to say, put the shit in the bag. Check. And we're going to the meet. But I think that's a really good thing to think about because variables you can't control always happen at meets. And unfortunately, some of the worst ones are going to be mid-flight. And we've had experiences like that at away meets, and we've had experiences with that here. And you can't really avoid them. And I know we asked his permission to talk about this. Carl, I know you reached out to Trey, correct?
Yeah, I reached out to Trey yesterday when I want to talk about one of the instances where there was a variable we could not control and he could not control.
And to fill the audience in, this was last winter meet, right? This was
No Luck 5.
Yeah, No Luck 5. I know, we're starting to rack them up where I'm having a hard time remembering how many we've done.
This was No Luck 5.
No Luck 5 here.
I think it was on his, I should have looked at the powerlifting.
I want to say he got his second, and this was third.
This is the big squat. This was the third squat, and he told me it was his. I'll look at the DM again.
I want to say it was his adductor and his hip flexor and quad.
Quad and his hip flexor. Yeah. Yeah, he suffered.
You were spotting, correct?
I was on his left side spotting,
and I was the one running the mono lever.
You were right in front of him.
Yeah, I was right in front of him.
And he suffered an injury on the descent of his third squat. And it took him out. We had to rip the bar off him, get it back in the rack. We're taking care of him, making sure he's straight, and
if we needed to call 911,
right,
or
making
not.
sure like, hey, how serious is this? Like, what's going on?
Luckily, we have 2 of our referees that are also on medical staff.
Yeah, so they
Lauren is
hands on immediately.
Yeah,
like
so
great.
we had actual staff that had a lot of medical background. So again, it always
which
helps
was a huge help.
Yeah, it always helps as a meet director, speaking from my personal experience, to have someone, 1 or 2 people that have knowledge of at least basic. Medical assistance, if not, like Lauren actually qualified. One of the other things too is giving that athlete room when they get hurt.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because I remember that was one of the first things I was yelling at people was like, yes, you want your couple designated people to assist and help, but depending on the severity, you don't obviously want to move the lifter because you don't know how bad it is.
Right.
And number two, you got 10 people surrounding them saying, oh my God, are you okay? And like the dudes, if it's real bad, like when I've gotten hurt, you go into shock. And it's like, you have little area to breathe, so everyone on top of you is
sucking up all the oxygen.
I
mean, you already had 5 people up there spotting, then you have 2 other people that have medical background hopping up there. You have the refs around, like looking around, what happened, what's going on. That's a lot of people in there on a small platform. It's very overwhelming for somebody if they suffer something like that and then have all that going on around them at the same time.
And also overwhelming for the lifters still watching.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, dude, I'm up in 3 people, or I'm up next, and like you just watch someone go through a traumatic injury,
which is a variable that we were going to talk about. You can't control somebody getting hurt right ahead of you. Trey was great. You know, he stuck around the rest of the meet. He was a good sport about it. He was hurt and he was bummed that he couldn't compete, but he was a great sport. He was taken care of, sat down. But like the person behind him, I can't remember who it was per se. But what do? We were there for probably 10 to 12 minutes, getting everything straightened up, and
you've almost had, I've even seen ones where it's bad enough where you're having a 20 to 25 minute timeout, and it's like your lifters in the lineup are cooling down, and it's like, as a meet director, now you're faced with a judgment call. Like, the meet must go on, but like, do you need to give extra people time to, take a warm up in the back room? Like, it's all instances where your first priority should always be safety for the lifter. And cleaning someone off the platform after a traumatic injury and saying, all right, next up, go get him, Tiger. Yeah, like that's not necessarily the way to go about it. But I think, not that you can prepare for that, because like me and Carl said, there's always ones you can't control with those variables, but like things like that at meets happen, and it's often out of anyone's control.
Yep.
Right? Now, it would be different if it was like, someone got hurt because of a great spotter loader error with like a huge misload or something like that, God forbid. But things like that do happen. So, equipment breaking in the warm-up room or on the platform, lifters getting hurt, like all kinds of things. Sometimes the computers, this happens at a lot of meets, the Wi-Fi dies. Too many people in a commercial facility, if that's where you're hosting an event, trying to jump on the private Wi-Fi and it crashes out.
Pretty sure we had issues with that over at, what was it, Diamond?
We did,
Diamond
yeah. There's too many people on one network and stuff.
It happens, that's just you have to roll with it.
Yeah, it's how it shakes out. And I think on the flip side of that, when we talk about like meet directors, like that's your ability to roll with the punches, right? Do you have a backup plan? Do you have someone who can like make their phone a hotspot? Like
break the flags out if you
have
to.
Like do you have? Worst case scenario, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah,
but do you have a backup in place to keep the meet moving so you don't allow your lifters to cool down? To what you can avoid.
Right. I think in that instance, Jess, your wife, she had a 35-minute break in between her.
I love how you're like, your wife. Like you talk about her like you don't know who she is. Well, there's this one lady, I think she's your wife.
Does she go here? She had a 35-minute wait between her second and third attempt squats, which is a pretty substantial wait time.
Yeah.
And that was multiple people, I don't want to say causing that wait because they didn't, intentionally cause it, but
cause them to get hurt.
That is what happened.
Shit happens, yeah. Because that was in between flights, right?
I think so.
Yeah, because we were about to call that flight up and then it got postponed.
Yeah.
But I guess she had already taken closer to her last warm up in the back and then just waited instead of taking another one. So
No. She was in that flight because it was between her second and third. She was in that flight.
Okay.
So she was in the holding tank back here waiting.
Yeah. But I don't know if it was that long, but it was definitely a solid 20. Like
it was pretty long.
Yeah. But either
long
way,
enough for you to get cold and it might screw.
Well, yeah, long enough to get cold for sure. But I think when it all boils down to, and speaking of meet directors and how you roll with things, I think that brings us right into our next topic. Your basic meet standards and functions, meaning like the flow of the meet versus the show. And I think so many meet directors nowadays are focused on the show because of the popularity of live streaming, of YouTube, of Instagram and reel posting. Like everyone wants things to look good for the gram and all the other socials, but they forget about oftentimes like basic meet functions. Like, is there a flow pattern to the warm-up room, the holding tank, and the actual platform that goes through the judges table? Like, do you have a system in place to keep the lifters in a circular motion so it's like not everyone bumping in, coming out where they're coming in, and everyone colliding each other, instead of making it easy to go through the table, right? Are there TVs and lineups in every room? Like, can they hear you when you're broadcasting as far as like announcing lifter lineups and all that kinds of things? Like, basic things that good meets that we would look for should always have seem to really go neglected. And I think one of the biggest hardships is right now is everyone tries to make everything look so good for a live stream event. Like, you have beautiful banners, you have fireworks and sparklers, like you have the overhead stage production with the spotlights coming down, and it looks so sick. They don't even hire out like commentators, which, by the way, total sidetrack. Most everyone I've ever listened to fucking sucks. Oh my God.
They might have a shitty DJ set up in the back.
Dude, like the commentators, like, did you just pick people out of the crowd to talk about lifters they don't know about? Like, it's fucking wild.
On a side note, if you are going to be hired as a commentator, do a little bit of research.
Yeah, a little bit of research. I think that's
reach out to the lifters.
The commonality of the show today is a little bit of research goes a long way. I've said that multiple times today already. Yeah.
Reach out to the lifters. Find out something funny about them. Find out how their prep went, so you can talk with like intent throughout the whole thing and not sound just like dumb going through the whole thing.
100% agree with that, Carl. But the focus on that live stream and that event to really hone in and get everyone hyped for it. Then you'll go in the warm up room, and it's literally like a fucking fishbowl, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a hallway, and I'm like, you have guys all hyped to sign up for this like medium to large size event who aren't, they are medium to large size boys, and they're like all on top of each other and cramped equipment with zero space to warm up. If it's a mono meet, there's one mono, and it's terribly set up, but the front half looks good. So it pulls this veil over everyone's eyes, be like, damn, look at that stage, look at those lifters, like, that's powerlifting. And then you go in the back and you're like, fuck, this is what I signed up for? Yeah. This is terrible experience. It just looks good on the outside.
The spectators love it. And the live stream, if there's people even watching the live stream, they're going to love it. But
and I mean, that just shows like what people care about nowadays. Like, I mean, it's you're supposed to be here for the lifters, right? Not for the views, not for like how much money can I pocket off of outside revenue for the live stream, like all kinds of stuff like that. And it's just it pisses me off because it gets lost on so many people. And I've met so many people in this sport who are officials or officiators and directors who just aren't here for the right reason. And it's disgusting. And like, some of you just need to get the fuck out, dude. Just fucking pack your bags and leave. Some of you have such piss poor lifting form and totals, you shouldn't even fucking be allowed to be in the sport anyway. And I'll fucking leave it at that.
Tell them how it is.
I mean, dude, like, I don't want my meet director to have a fucking 300 dots. Like, get the fuck out of here.
If you can do both, if you can have the pyrotechnics and you can have a great lifter experience, more power to you.
Yeah, if you can pull both off, we're not bagging on you.
That doesn't happen all the time. That's very rare.
Pyrotechnics and big splashy shit needs to come second to lifter safety and flow.
And this might just be a personal opinion. People might share it with me. I'm not sure. But that might screw with me a little bit. If I'm on the platform and I got fireworks going off next to me, I may not get where I need to be to take a big squat.
You know what? I think next week we should try it out. What's going to happen is I'm going to set your straps, and then I'm going to light off 3 sparklers, and I'm going to slide under you and blow them up at you through your crotch and see if it startles you.
Well, I think there's a tent set up at the grocery store down the road. You could go buy some bottle rockets.
Oh, yes. All right, in the cave. I think the one woman that goes here, I think you called her, I think she's my wife. I think she'll love that.
Yeah. I remember her saying she wanted to start going here. So.
Bottle rockets in the future. But the moral of that story is, if you can provide the pyro, if you can provide the live stream, the big TV and hits, that's wonderful. That's cool. You're providing that experience for the lifter. But that should always come second to safety and flow of a meet, because you're there to make sure they do their best that day, not look their best that day.
Yeah.
Right? Looking good, don't get uploaded to Open Powerlifting.
And you said it pretty good yourself, but if you're not in the sport and you don't have like that, if you get a 300 dots, what do you say, 300 dots?
Yeah.
Don't fucking try it.
It's just like, if you don't have enough experience and growth within the sport as yourself as a lifter, like, how are you supposed to provide that experience for a lifter?
Yeah.
If you don't have it yourself as a lifter,
if you haven't been in it to know about it,
yeah,
then
it's ridiculous. That's almost like when people compete their first 2 meets and are like, "Hit me up in my DM bio for coaching." I'm like, That's like the blind leading the blind, and I'm pretty sure that is the same analogy I would use for meet directors that also lack that experience on the platform.
And unfortunately, that feels like it's majority of the sport.
It really does, man. Sad. And you've been around me enough to see it all, man.
I've seen plenty of people posting online about coaching. And I'm like, well, let's
and you've been to a lot of shitty meets with me too.
Let's look at the open powerlifting real quick.
Yeah.
Are you coaching people? Okay.
But speaking of not shitty people, we got to give a shout out to our man Chris Northern here from Sup Dogs, our newest sponsor for the podcast. I've actually known Chris since I've been competing, 10 years
really?
Almost. Yeah, me and Jess have known Chris for almost 10 years. We met when we first all started competing in Frederick Fairgrounds for like the Mid-Atlantic and all that stuff back when USPA East was still popular before all that shit broke apart. But Chris's company, Sup Dog Supplements, is a company proudly made for lifters by lifters, and I can vouch for that because I have lifted with Chris many a times. Founded in 2023, operated and owned inside of Maryland, so we keep it local in the DMV, which is one of the reasons we really wanted Chris to be a part of this with us, because we're all about the local scene and trying to boost that up, and he is too. And I saw that and I'm like, hey, this would be a positive reinforcement for both of us to help lifters all across that tri-state area. Me and Carl we were using the stim-free,
that's right,
the bite down, but now we're using the shot collar, right?
This is that's the shot collar, right
400
there,
milligrams of caffeine to light you up, give you the heebie-jeebies.
That it does.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And everything's peach. Everything's peachy keen, man.
Which I'm not complaining about.
No, I love the flavor. Peach is very relaxing, especially in the it kind of reminds Carl that everything's going to be okay, because he's get that sweet sip of summer peach to relax him while he's wearing his winter coat in the middle of a squat. It really cools him down in the summer because we made bad choices. But Chris is a great guy. He also makes fat burners, such as Hot Dog and what was the night one called?
There's a sleep aid.
The sleep aid. I have not messed with it yet. I really want to. I haven't been working out hard enough to require it. But you have, so maybe you'll be the first one to try that. But again, shout out Chris. Thank you so much for having us on Sup Dogs. You can also save if you do Cavecast is the code between me, Carl, and the podcast to save for Sup Dogs. So again, thank you, Chris. And it's called Rough Night.
Rough Night, that's what it is.
The puns. I appreciate the puns. So thank you, Chris.
Has he always had that really cool mustache?
He was the OG cool mustache.
Oh my god!
He was the first mustache I saw.
It's magnificent.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful mustache. So some more things we're going to talk about real quick. Meat restrictions on money and how that shakes out. Now, I think this is you've seen a lot of this behind the scenes because you're so close with me. So like you've helped me set up meets here at the cave. We've been to meets, seen the backdrops of everything. Like Carl's been behind the scenes. VIP.
I've talked to you two like blue in the face.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are we gonna get this together?
Yeah, this man knows, but we always make it happen. But he's seen how that all shakes out. But I think a lot of people don't realize, like, when you choose to do a travel or faraway meet, and we talked a little bit of this on the last podcast, where they've removed your requirements for meets, so a lot of people are foregoing local and community-based sanctioned events because you can go right to regionals, you go right to nationals. Sure. There's no quote-unquote incentive or need to do a local meet. But why you should support your local region, besides supporting your meet directors who actively give a shit, usually people from your region, aka us, will also care more about your lifters, aka you. So you should do more meets with us because we care. But I think a lot of people misunderstand meat directing and think it's like this giant cash grabs. And for some people it is, especially like when we get more back into what we were talking about with the pyrotechnics and all that stuff. Is to reel them in and then not provide the experience because, you can bag more money. You know for a fact that we are not Scrooge McDuckin over here. I'm not diving into a gold pool of coins. The most we make out from a meet is to put a little nest egg away in case, a month or two at the cave gets hard and that electric bill in the middle of summer gets crazy high.
We leave those fans on.
Yeah, them fans be running, boy. But, the cost of drug tests for the T-shirts, for... and I was surprised when you and me talked about this last week because you were talking to some other people, and I think you had told me you even heard on other podcasts of directors not paying all their staff.
Right. And that's a completely voluntary thing, though.
It is. I agree. Now, you know me personally. You literally physically watch me do this.
Sure.
Every deadlift flight, right? You will watch me running around with my like a chicken with its head cut off, with wads of money in that little fanny pack, dishing out money and cash first to all my staff members. I try to make sure every single person gets paid for their time. Now, it's not a crazy amount of money. We always agree on the money before with the sign-up genius and all that stuff so they know what they're getting into, so I'm not pulling a blindfold in anyone. But I always make sure everyone gets paid because I know it takes a team to make this work. And we have and we've said it, I think all three podcasts.
We're not trying to toot our own horns.
We got a team here. This is what a team looks like. And so I make sure everyone feels respected and everyone knows that for a fact. So I make sure everyone gets taken care of, is paid. We usually all go out as a team to eat afterwards. It is very family-oriented cave type thing. But I think you should be paying all your staff, man. So you're not pocketing that money and saying, well, it's a meet and they're part of my gym. Everyone operates on volunteer money, right? Like maybe they gave up something else in that day to be here for you to help run your event at your gym or hosting at some facility, right? Like you deserve to...
You want some sort of compensation
if
you're giving something up about,
Yeah, I would always want someone to feel appreciated, and especially if you have a great team, you want them to come back. You want them to form that team and not just be a hodgepodge of who signed up every time, right? Because I tell you what, and I know a lot of listeners have said this to me, when they see you, when they see Rob, when they see Tim and Joe, like people who frequent the cave on my platform as spotters and loaders, right? It makes them feel better. They're like, hey, I know this team. They've taken good care of me before. They're going to take care of me again, right? Yep. And so you build that trust with your local area lifters, which is another reason to do those local meets.
It has so much carry. It does.
Yeah, and it makes it a one-of-a-kind experience. It's not just you travel out, do a random ass meet with random ass people. It's like you're here with a community, and that matters.
Yeah, I think... Man, what did we talk about earlier with guys jumping in, helping crews out? Like when we're at meets and then if there's not enough people to jump through and we add our guys in if we need to. I think that can go a long way.
But I think that comes from us doing that here. Like there's so we have a level of expectation.
Yeah, and we even have guys that'll hop in here if we need to.
We do. But I think because everyone expects that at our meets, when we go to other meets, we just naturally do that now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I can't remember the last meet I just went to and you and me didn't help somebody else.
That's true.
Right? And actually when I got invited to be on Table Talk with Dave Tate, and when he invited me to be a featured columnist and a writer for Elite FTS, he said that was one of the first things he remembered about me before he put me on the show.
Oh, really?
Was he said, when I went to nationals, you were there, you were doing all your own thing, but you never, no matter what you were doing, you never didn't help somebody else.
Oh,
nice. If they asked you, you talked to somebody. If they needed help, you said, hey, I got some extra of this in my bag. He said, that was one of the main things he remembered about me.
It has a lot of carry.
It does.
It affects people you don't even know. You don't even know it's sticking in that person's head before, unless they tell you. It probably stuck in 10 or 15 other people's heads that day. You wouldn't even ever know.
One of the ones that always reminds me of Danielle Stivers, dude. She bombed out, I think it was her second meet at DSI.
That's right.
And she was really upset, crying. And I was directing the meet, and I walked in the back and said, hey, look, dude, everybody bombs out. I've bombed out. And what I need you to do is to take a second, be sad for yourself, and then pull it together, and I need you to finish this meet. And I was like, you're going to be a guest lifter, but you need that experience. This is how we get better. And she did great, and she finished the day, and at the end, she came up and thanked me and said, Travis, I wanted to quit, I wanted to cry, but like you're the reason I finished this meet. And like if you're not doing that as a meet director, fuck you. Like seriously, like that's the kind of shit that makes differences for people. Like going up and talking to them and being like, hey, or like I had the younger kid here that was he was young, dude. He was like 17. He was making mistakes with his wrist wraps and he was kind of getting upset. I said, look, this isn't a personal attack. You can't take it like that. Look, I'm trying to help you and make you a better lifter. So these are the rules, right? So this is what you did, but this is what I want to see from you. And then he went up and corrected all those. And sure enough, after that bench fight, he came. I was like, dude, thank you so much for like being a little harder on me, but taking the time to talk to me. Like, if you're not doing that as a meet director, get fucked.
And I think that really helps the sport too, because like you're not only encouraging people that are in it to stay, but like other people will see that too. Like, oh, that's something I want to be a part of.
Hey, there's a team, there's a guy that cares. Like that's why we do these meets.
And who knows that day if somebody bombs out and they're like, well, I'm done with this. That didn't work out. And you don't go up to that person and say, let's stick to it. Let's stick to the plan we had. Just go through. You'll be the guest lifter, but you get the experience still, and it's a good experience for them.
Yeah, so then next time you don't bomb out and you got a goal,
and
right?
I'm pretty sure, didn't she go?
She did great. She went 9 for 9 this past meet, man. Killed it. Glad to see her back, man.
Yeah.
But like I think that's kind of like a good thing to kick off this last idea before we round out the podcast is how do you get involved with the sport and what counts as giving back or getting involved in the sport? Yeah. First off of the bat, me and Carl both agreed on this. If you're a coach, getting paid to handle your athletes at an event is not giving back to the sport.
Not one bit.
You're getting paid for a service that you provide. Coaching is not giving back to the sport. Now, there are cavalcades for that. Like, obviously, if you're signed up for, like, I know I have some friends who do Special Olympics coaching who is voluntary, and that is completely a different story. But I'm talking, like, your normal, hey, I'm paying you for one-on-one coaching. You write my programs. You come handle me at the meet. Like, you're getting paid for all that. If it's a big meet, they even flew you out or some shit like that. Like, that's not giving back to the sport. That's you doing your job.
Yeah.
Right?
That is a paid position.
That is a paid position. You got it. So I think, I know it needs to be a little more complicated than this, but I feel like you got qualified as giving back and into the sport when I was like, Carl, what are you doing this day? I think you're gonna spot and load for me.
I hope you don't got plans on Saturday.
I'm gonna make you sweat, boy. You got stuff to do. You got stuff to load and people to save.
Yeah. I think a really good point we can talk about with like giving back is we talked about spotting and loading. If you are new, might just be my opinion, but if you are new to it, do not jump in immediately to spot and load.
Correct. I no, that is not just you. I 100% back that.
Okay. Full transparency, I did. I jumped into a meet to spot and load without ever going to a meet before.
Yeah.
But the only difference is I had been around a lot of people that needed spots in the gym, and I have experienced spotting and loading weights beforehand. So going into it, I was somewhat prepared. But if you are not around that, and you're like, oh, let me get into the sport, let me just go to a meet, spot and load, that is not what you should be doing.
Because not only are you risking lifter safety, you're risking your own safety. Because you don't know how to properly spot and load. Now, I will say you and Rob, and of course I did this before you guys took over for me, is do a spotter loader briefing where you gather all your spotter loader team, talk about correct ways to do things, quick reminders for everyone who has done it previously, and you have someone designated as a platform manager who kind of like, hey, you do this, let's confirm this before we give the thumbs up to the referee to say the platform's ready. Like, it all needs to be very cohesive in order to make it, number one, a great experience for the lifter, and number two, a great experience for the spotters and loaders so you guys work as a unit and no one gets hurt, right? Because nobody likes fucked up fingers, dude. You can slam fingers and locks all the time.
Nobody.
Yeah, fingers hurt, dude. Fingers and toes, man. You need them all.
There's always a couple that get a little bruised up.
So if you are thinking about, giving back and getting interested in helping the sport, right? So number one, I would definitely... you should have competed before, 100%. Probably more than once, right? That would be your first go-to.
Ideal.
Yeah, ideal. So if you don't know a lot about powerlifting, you couldn't tell me the general flow of everything, you shouldn't be out there spotting and loading.
Yeah. Keep your feet off the platform.
Yeah. Now, there's other positions you could help with. You could do like a warm-up room attendee. You could manage the front door. You could help with a merch booth, like all kinds of stuff like that, where you're there helping and also being immersed in everything that's going on. So next time you're like, hey, I've seen this a couple times. Like now I'm getting a better feel for what's going on. So there are other positions. So if you want, email that meet director or the owner of the gym or whoever's hosting/directing and be like, hey, are there some other opportunities or spots that you have that don't require as much of a seasoned staff member that I could help you fill? Now, obviously, you do need spotters and loaders that are trusted. They should be strong. You need strong people
should be
to
able
spot
to catch some weights.
Strong people need to be there to catch strong people. It sounds like a given, but I mean, I don't know how many USAPL meets we've watched where it's like 900-pound squats and 13-year-old boys made of like SpaghettiOs and string beans.
Pound,
dude, like that's never gonna happen here.
I really hope nothing bad happens right here.
Because no one's helping anything. Instead of 1 dead, it's 5 dead. Like everyone's going down. Like it's scary stuff, man.
Yeah, it is.
So like that should never be an option as a meet director to like you're putting yourself at risk and your entire staff team. That's immediately no go. And you should have a staff team. Like, dude, if we pull up to the meet and you're like, can you guys help today?
That's a no-go.
That's a no-go, dude. Like, that's a no. Like, you should have that worked out way ahead of time. You should have a sign-up genius. You should have a running list of your staff members, know how many people need to get paid, who's doing what. Like, all of that should be well taken care of in advance. And if other people offer their help day of the meet, you can take that as it comes. But at no point in time should it not be locked in with empty positions before that happens. Right? That's kind of like, hey, I could use an extra hand here if you're willing, but I already have a spot full. You know what I mean?
This position's taken, but since you're here, could you go help out this way?
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're looking to become a referee, right, definitely need meet experience. I would say, if it was up to me, I'd say no less than 3 meets, full power meets competed. And I mean, I know a lot of people are very like Fed specific, but I would prefer. I think referees that have done multiple feds to see differences between feds and have a wide variety of experience. I think that helps in the long run. Now, as like a state level judge, probably not. But like as you get to more national, like world level judges, and you know, I've been refereeing for over 8 years now. Like that kind of me being RPS, I've done USPC, I've done USPA, I've done them a lot. So it's like I've seen all these minute differences between rule books, between how events are run, good events, bad events, blah, 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 hence why we're talking about all this today. But like I think that really kind of helps develop your idea of what a meet should look on both sides of the platform as a lifter and as a staff member in whatever capacity that is. But if you are looking to be a referee, make sure you get in touch with your federation. Find out who you need to talk to, who's going to be directing meets in your area to get a hold to see how you can become part of the team. Then there's obviously going to be an online part where you need to take some kind of written typed referee exam. And then usually after that, on a pass-fail rate, you are invited to do your practical, which is where you shadow and sit with a ref for the entirety of a meet, and they fill things out as you go, and then you pass or fail at the end of the day. That gets turned in, you get your polo, and then you become your very low-level State 1 ref, and then work your way up.
What's the probability you don't pass your practical?
Dude, it's pretty high nowadays, and it's open book, which don't get me started on that, dude. If it's open book and you're failing, like, dude, I don't want you on this team.
You're not going to do well.
You're not going to do well, and you're not going to do well with me. I'm not going to be a happy camper with you.
Is that because you're an English teacher?
No, it's because I'm not a dipshit. Like, if you give an open book and you couldn't take the time to get them right and look through an open book, then no. If you can't pay attention to lines in a book and pick out things that need to be written down, how am I supposed to sit you in a chair and you pick out things that need to be right on a squat or deadlift?
That's true.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of correlation there. So no, I do not want your ass to warm one of my seats. I would like you to not be here. So I think you should have a 90% or higher passing rate on a ref exam.
Okay.
And that's including states, like your first one, 100%. But yeah, you do need to reach out and get involved. That's a good way to do it. But of course, like there are different things to go about doing this. More experience, less experience, etc., depending on your fed, depending on your director. But those are just my personal opinions. I always encourage you to volunteer, but volunteer appropriately, meaning don't jump in over your head and risk the safety and, liability of everybody else because you were a little too gung-ho.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I think that's really important. Do you have any closing remarks?
I'd probably go off to say it is great to volunteer and get involved. I wouldn't necessarily say it is a requirement.
Yeah.
Everybody is entitled to enjoy this sport
In their own way.
however they see. That could involve you just being competing. That could involve you being sitting here at the head ref table during a meet and going over everything. It could be a meet director.
Right.
You're allowed to do whatever you want. Just make sure you're not half-assing it.
Yeah. You're allowed to do whatever you want. I'll just judge you for it.
Yeah, well, that goes with everything.
Yeah. It's not that you're wrong. It's just I'm going to judge you
If you're
for
putting
it.
yourself out there, you're probably going to get judged.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's the nature of putting a good team together.
Yeah.
You got to be a little bit harder to make sure that team's tight, man. People want to compete with good teams at good places with good directors, and that's how you form those teams. And you told me before, man. If I say something out of pocket that's pretty wild, it's usually coming from a place of love.
Yeah, you usually have meaning behind it.
I do. I try to have meaning behind it. I think that's pretty much everything for today, man. We covered that whole list, man. That was pretty big list. But like I said, next week we are taking a break. But just wanted to remind everybody, these first 3 weeks for the podcast have been absolutely phenomenal. Me and Carl really enjoy doing this. At least he tells me he enjoys doing this with me.
We're already looking forward to the next one.
I know. So thank you guys so much. Please subscribe, share, shout out. Help us make this thing grow so we can have an impact the way we want to. Carl, closing remarks?
Closing remarks. I think I mentioned everything I wanted to say before, but y'all can find me on Instagram at Carl_Leemaster. Have not changed the tag yet. Not tech savvy.
That should be your due from between now and the next podcast. Change it to Big C.
Keep me on it. Keep me honest. But yeah, that's about it.
Same thing. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. It's just youtube.com/@PapaBearRogers. And then you can find our live streams, coaching tips, all that good stuff. And of course, my Elite FTS articles if you want to read some further stuff or, do a little stinker tinker and, go to the bathroom and read some articles. That's where I do my best reading. With love and grumpy paws, we're out.
Out.